Welcome to the Planning Board. It is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion for the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So at 6:30, we have, in accordance, it's a Planning Board public hearing, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 9 and 11, and with the Scituate zoning bylaw, Section 530, accessory dwelling special permit, and Section 940 referrals. The Planning Board will conduct a public hearing at 7, what?
What?
Did I give you the wrong one?
Yes, you did, dear.
Sorry. I amended it. 6:30, just change it to
6:30. You know, I don't like being confused.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
September 9th.
A hearing
Move along.
at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, August 26th.
September 9th.
September. This went into the paper incorrectly, and this is the,
The revised version.
Yes.
That's the
Good night, right now.
okay, Thursday, September 9th, 2021, in the Selectmen's Hearing Room at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by applicant owners Linda Barnhart, L.E., and Bruce Barnhart for accessory dwelling special permit attached by a breezeway to a single-family dwelling at property located at 137 Gilson Road, Scituate. Property is shown on Assessor's Map, block parcel 64-1-7. Plans are available at the Planning Board office, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you. You're all here. You may come forward.
Mr. Barnhart.
It was correct when it went into the newspaper, they just didn't.
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
The newspaper
Did in print.
did not
Do what they were
do
supposed
what
to
they
do.
were supposed to.
That's right.
Okay, Mr. Barnhart, would you care to give us an overview of what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Sure, the basics. My parents bought the property in 1958 or so, 60-plus years ago, and have lived there ever since. I was born there. I moved away. My parents needed me, so I moved back in 2012. My father has since passed. My mother is 88 and increasingly frail, and spends a lot of time in a wheelchair, which is also why I did not bring her this evening. And we have narrow doorways and stuff in the house, and we're struggling. So we want to build an accessory dwelling that will be appropriate for her.
Okay.
And it's not near any neighbors, and it's not near the road or near the cliff. I think we're okay on all that.
Karen?
I think it meets the definition of an accessory dwelling. I mean, it's suitably located. It's going to be attached by a breezeway to the primary dwelling. So the size-wise, it is below 40%. And so I would recommend approval. You do have a couple comments you have a comment from the water and the sewer that the water department say that a separate water service is required. There's a $14,000 connection fee, and the new service will need to be inspected. And the sewer division, that a privilege fee of $8,000 will be required. It is recommended that the dwelling receive a separate sewer line to avoid issues with the primary dwelling. All work has to be done by a licensed drain layer. And I have forwarded those comments on to the applicant.
So you're aware of all of that. Any comments from the board? Bob?
Done.
None for me.
Rebecca? Nope. Ben?
The only thing I would have to say, and I'm sure Karen's made you aware of this, is that the underlying zoning is in the Water Resource Protection District, so they'll likely have to be, since we weren't provided with like a formal stormwater plan because it wasn't applicable, there'll probably be some requirements for roof drainage and site disturbance and things of that nature.
I actually did a stormwater plan,
Oh.
and then was told that it wasn't needed.
Okay.
Probably, but
Well, then you're
it's
up to me.
there. I can share it if need be, but I wanted to make sure that it was going to be taken care of.
Okay. That,
We do have a recommended condition to
Yes.
say that there'll be an infiltrator to take the first inch of roof top runoff, and they can submit a plan afterwards, as you've done on a couple other accessory dwellings in the Water Resource Protection District.
yeah, and I think that,
Okay.
speaking for myself, that's fine.
Okay. And all the lighting that you put on this accessory dwelling will be down light, it won't shine?
No going out.
Right. I mean, we're not shining any lights upward or outward. I mean,
Sometimes motion lights can be a little bit,
Floodlights is.
Floodlights.
floodlights, okay.
okay? They can be
Yeah.
a little disturbing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that you have 3 entrance/exits in this dwelling.
Yep.
Okay.
Really nice ramps.
And a
nice-
ramp.
Nice ramps, okay.
Yeah. So,
You're all set.
we're all set. No one has anything else? So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that needs to be heard? Nope? Okay. I move to make the following findings of fact. On July 28, 2021, Linda Barnhart, L.E., and Bruce Barnhart applied for a special permit for an accessory dwelling on the property of 137 Gilson Road. 2, according to the Town of Scituate's assessor's records and the deed, the property at 137 Gilson Road is owned by Linda Barnhart, L.E., and Bruce Barnhart. 3, based on a floor plan submitted by the applicant, the floor area of the proposed accessory dwelling will be approximately 972 square feet. The application indicates this is 39.6% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling, which is 2,456 square feet, according to the applicant and the assessor's card. This meets the size requirements of 530.2F of the zoning bylaw for accessory dwellings, as the bylaw allows 750 square feet, or 40% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling, whichever is greater. The accessory dwelling is subordinate to the existing single-family home. 4, the accessory dwelling unit will be a complete, separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only one accessory dwelling on the lot. 5, the property is in the residential R3 zoning district and Water Resource Protection District. The proposed attached accessory dwelling structure meets all the required setbacks, building height, and yard requirements for primary dwelling. The proposed proposed accessory dwelling is to be located on the north side of the existing primary dwelling and will be connected to the primary dwelling by an open breezeway with a roof. Access will be via a door to the breezeway and from doors to the deck and on the west side of the dwelling from the proposed bedrooms. 7, the appearance of the accessory dwelling will be in keeping with the appearance of the primary dwelling. The plot plan for 137 Gilson Road, Scituate, Mass., dated 1/12/21 by C&G Survey Company shows the location of the existing primary dwelling and the proposed accessory dwelling of the garage. A photograph provided shows there is room for 5 cars in the existing bituminous concrete driveway. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the primary dwelling and 2 spaces for the accessory dwelling. Ample parking appears to be provided. 9, the owner has submitted a signed notarized statement that he will be occupying one of the units at 137 Gilson Road. 10, the accessory dwelling will be serviced by town water and sewer. DPW requirements for water connections and sewer connections will be met. 11, the application meets the standards of the Scituate zoning bylaw for an accessory dwelling special permit. Is there a second on the finding? Second. All right, is there further discussion?
I think so.
All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. I move to approve the special permit for an accessory dwelling at 137 Gilson Road with the following conditions, in addition to the standard conditions for accessory dwellings approved by the planning board after a public hearing on 12/17/15. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to architectural plans by Hung Fung for the Barnhart residence, 137 Gilson Road, Scituate, Mass., dated 6/4/21, consisting of 8 plan sheets, including existing basement/first floor plans, A1.10, existing second/roof plans, A1.11, existing elevations, A1.12, proposed basement/first floor plans, A1.13, proposed roof plan, A1.14, proposed elevations, A1.15, existing/proposed first floor plan, A1.16, existing/proposed south-north elevations, A1.17, plot plan for 137 Gilson Road in Scituate, MA by C&G Survey Company, dated January 12, 2021. 2, the number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 2 in the location and size indicated on the floor plan submitted with the application. No further expansion of the accessory dwelling floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. Upon occupancy of the accessory dwelling, the applicant shall provide a notarized affidavit that he is living in one of the dwelling units. A yearly certification that the owner occupies one of the dwelling units must be provided by March 1 yearly. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health, Building Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, and other town agencies must be met prior to occupancy of the accessory dwelling. 6, the accessory dwelling shall conform to all applicable standards in the building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health codes and bylaws. 7, water connection must meet all requirements of the DPW water division for the accessory dwelling. The DPW is requiring a separate water service for the accessory dwelling. 8, the sewer connection must meet all requirements of the DPW sewer division for the accessory dwelling, including an $8,000 sewer connection fee. It is recommended that the dwelling receive a separate sewer line to avoid service issues with the primary dwelling. All sewer work shall be done by a licensed drain layer. 9, any lighting installed shall be down lighting, not to shed light on abutting properties. 10, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal state and federal holidays. Construction includes idling of vehicles, delivery of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. 11, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling shall not be increased from the property. 12, the site is in the Water Resource Protection District. Runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling rooftop must be designed to recharge the first 1 inch of rainfall, with recharge attained through site design that incorporates natural drainage patterns maintained to the greatest extent possible. Rooftop runoff shall be routed through either infiltration devices having a 3-foot maximum separation.
Minimum.
Between the bottom of the structure and maximum groundwater elevation, grassed water quality swales, sheet flow over lawn areas, or constructed filters that remove nitrogen. A plan shall be provided to the town planner for approval to construction with a test pit included showing the maximum groundwater elevation. 13, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt sock shall be used as necessary. Okay. Number 10, no parking of any construction vehicles on the public way.
Yeah.
We already try to park our cars always on the yard, even if we have people visiting. And we tell our neighbors to also, because we've got a big enough yard to, because there's no room on the roads.
All right. Okay, is there a second as amended?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have one tiny thing in
Yes.
section 6, last sentence. from doors to the deck on the east side of the dwelling from the proposed bedrooms. The deck's going to be on the east side, the ocean side.
Okay, well, we have west.
All right.
I may have put it wrong. And the architect's name is actually Hing Fong, H-I-N-G.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. You're all set.
You all set?
So, great. Anything I need to do?
You've talked to Karen.
I'll notify you when the decision is filed, and then there's 20-day appeal period, then you take it to the registry of deeds, get it recorded, and then you can file for your building permit.
Great.
You could actually file for it now, and then just wait for we'll try to get this filed tomorrow.
Thanks. And by the way, thanks very much to Karen, who helped me not make too many mistakes.
She's awesome. She's the best.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good luck. What is this?
Now what are we gonna do?
All right, we have 14 minutes before our next public hearing.
Go on, zoom.
Karen, what do we want
I mean,
to?
you can do minutes, accounting, liaison, you can start down the bottom, and, you
Work
know,
up?
work up.
All right, let's try the planning development report. What?
I thought you were gonna do minutes first.
Well, you said start at the bottom and.
No, I know, literally, but only with the bold face.
All right, approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes for August 26, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? This is going to be an interesting evening, I can tell, right from the
I think
start.
something here.
Yes, you should
I'm
have
going
brought
to
some
do
stuff.
accounting.
Okay.
Go for it.
I move to approve the requisition of $126 to Gatehouse Media for legal ad for 8 J Road, for $130 to Chesia Consultant for peer review services at 18 Ford Place, for $1,043.60 to Chesia Consulting for peer review services at 485 Country Way Residential Compound, for $3,250 to Chesia Consulting for peer review services at 533 Country Way.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Liaison reports. Does anybody have any liaison
I don't have anything
reports?
good, no.
So the only thing we did listen to the selectmen, and they are gonna support our article for the master plan for town meeting, so
Yep.
that was good. They had a little discussion about that, whether they were supposed to do that or not. First or second, but that signed off, so whatever warrant number that is, I don't know.
Article 9.
Article 9.
And then Tuesday night, we had, there was an item on the agenda the big concern is collecting money for water and sewer attachments to structures, if you will. And there have been structures that have ultimately become accessory apartments. But this was, how it was worded for the selectmen was incorrect. It has to do with dwelling use as opposed to an
Accessory use.
accessory.
use.
And it took them a few minutes to figure out what that meant. So it's policy. It's not a zoning change. And it really goes to the building department when they issue a permit. They are the ones that really should capture whether or not whomever is putting in, they might not be putting in a stove, but who cares? They're still putting in infrastructure, whether it's a sink or toilet, whatever. So that meets the criteria of tying into water and sewer.
So can I ask if the new permitting process will make that easier? Who knows?
If they could figure out how to do it.
Yes, I mean, it's supposed to make it easier by adding water and sewer divisions onto
The
who
permit.
signs off for a building permit,
Okay,
theoretically.
okay.
Okay. So they have to figure out new and better wording, and they'll be coming back.
Okay.
Because as Will Brandt said, they can't do it once, they have to do it twice.
Right. I'd imagine the nuances of that policy will get fairly complex too, because,
No,
well, I think the argument could be made that a half bathroom in a garage is a lot different than a full
Apartment
bedroom in
house.
an accessory dwelling in terms of the burden on infrastructure.
Tell that to.
I will, but, but just thinking about it as someone that's dealt with similar issues
Right,
with a building permit and that, so.
okay. It gets tricky, but it is a use.
So, are there 11 articles on on the warrants?
Yes, there are 11 articles, and so the ones that pertain to, that we're interested, Article 9 is the master plan endorsement. Article 10 is the petition legislation, the citizen petition legislation. Article 11 is the citizen petition zoning.
Okay.
And so the special town meeting is October 26th. I believe that the selectmen and the advisory board are probably waiting for us to have our public hearing before we report to them the results of our public hearing,
Okay.
so that they can make informed decisions on what they're going to be recommending for town meeting.
Thank you.
All right, they're coming forward with two, Article 10 and Article 11, and we had public hearing that was put in the
Posted
paper.
for Article 11.
This is for Article 11.
This is for Article 11. What about Article, oh, that's,
It's not zoning. We only
don't
have to deal with
that.
zoning. We only deal with zoning.
okay.
And
So we're not doing 10, we're only doing 11. Just work
So that's what the town meeting stuff is. Curtis Estates, the sidewalk is largely in. It's supposed to be paved tomorrow morning. We'll see if they can squeeze out all the water, if there's any puddles that are collected, but the sidewalk is supposed to be paved tomorrow.
Actually, it was,
It's paved now.
it's paved
No,
now.
it's only to binder.
Oh, okay,
It's
sorry.
only to binder.
Wrong color, okay.
And so they didn't fix the stone wall prior to either, so if there's any damage to that, they will be fixing it.
Responsible. Yep.
Next week, we have also a meeting, we're doing the back-to-back meetings, September 16th. We have items on our agenda. We have Design Review is meeting on Tuesday night to review Bob Browick's 6 McDonald Place. The Drew Company is continuing with construction. Toll Brothers is continuing with construction. I'm going out there next week with our consulting engineer, and I believe Patty will be coming, and we're supposed to be walking and reviewing the landscape. And potentially positioning, staking where, in the decision you'll recall, we get 50 additional trees. We're going to be staking some of those. Now, I don't believe they're fully ready for this, but I think that it's going to be a go, and that we'll see how unready they are for it. Some areas are more ready than others. When Patty and I went, we discovered that not much of the planting was by the plan. So, a lot of the intent was there, but in some cases, some stuff was just omitted. Some stuff they put bigger plants, which I don't have a problem with bigger plants. And I had previously approved letting them do some fencing on the Phase 2 area. But we'll give it a whirl and see where it goes.
How much has died that they put in over the years?
Quite a bit of it. Quite a bit of it has died. And some of it's already been replaced. Some of it, they just are not convinced it's dead yet, so they haven't replaced it. But it,
It's very green, we'll tell you that, it's very
if
green
if
over
it
there.
if it has any bit of green on it, they're saying it's alive. Right. Right.
Yeah, not dead yet, yeah.
So we'll see.
Right, y'all
I
should
mean,
get-
all we can do is go out there, and our consulting engineer will be on board to, review this, and some stuff they have replaced, but if it's dead, it's gonna be noted, and, they owe us a living landscape,
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
so,
That has to last more than 2 minutes.
right. So,
Because they do have water available for their
Yes.
shrubs. I mean, they
Yes.
have a well,
they have 3 wells.
they have 3 wells, so there's no reason why anything should be allowed.
Well, part of the problem, Ian, is it's not planted.
Right, some of the
Just
stuff
sits there
isn't
in these
planted.
giant pots, and they're just sitting there in these big
And
retaining places.
Additionally, they haven't, when they last came in to meet with you, and we said they had to have the grading done at the bottom, at the end of Lois Ann, that has not been done.
No, that's a mess.
And so I expressed my strong displeasure that that was not done. And they've been a little bit incommunicative since I expressed that displeasure.
And I'm not surprised.
So I was told it was next on the list.
Sure it is.
So we'll see. I mean,
How close are they, or how far away are they from completion of this project?
I don't think you're talking completion till probably at least spring of '22. None of the basins work, you got to remember. I mean, and they're not going to address that till the end.
18 more months.
How many more building
Then
packs do they have
shouldn't
to do?
When they were last in here, they said there was 10 more building packs. We've already approved, I think, I've already approved 2 sets of building permits, and I have 1 in right now. So
Yeah,
they're,
they go pretty fast.
I think it would be the spring of '23.
it might be, I mean,
Not '22.
no, not 22, you're right,
23.
23.
And a couple of more things in terms of, there's talk about putting woody shrubs along the back of the
Right,
townhouses.
I have raised that issue, but we were talking about that as potentially, if the town dug the swale adjacent to Hatherley Road, because the town has more leeway in terms of wetlands, then maybe they might put some, but it's not fully on the table yet. They would just be woody shrubs in pockets to help absorb some of the water. And we did have a complaint from water from 7th Ave last week after the big storm.
These complaints are getting more than annoying, because it
But
shouldn't be
they're getting
happening.
less, but they're getting less.
They are?
They're getting- yeah.
All right.
They're getting less. So the gentleman also who had the roof drain, who had the gutter issue, he's not too happy either. His yard hasn't taken off yet either. It needs either new sod or new seed,
And you're sodding everything now, they're not seeding anything.
except they seeded his yard.
Yeah, they did before we did, yeah, the apple, tackle, whatever you call it.
Okay, it is now 7 o'clock.
Okay.
A public hearing, Thursday, September 9, 2021, at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 5, that a public hearing will be held by the Scituate Planning Board on Thursday, September 9, 2021, at 7 p.m. in the Select Board Hearing Room at Town Hall to consider amendments to the Scituate zoning bylaw as described below, submitted via citizens petition. These amendments will appear as an article on the warrant for the special town meeting commencing October 26, 2021. The intent of the change is to allow marijuana establishments in the Business District B and some sub-districts of the Village Center and Neighborhood District, VCN. All references below refer to sections of the zoning bylaw. 1. Insert into section 200 definitions, those definitions currently located in section 491.1B definitions. 2, amend section 420, table of use regulations, use category GG marijuana establishments as follows. Commercial District B, change N to SP. Village Center and Neighborhood Districts, change N to SP. In districts GVC, GWB, NDTV, NRN, VBP, VC, and OV. 3, amend by adding to the title of section 440.2 the phrase "and marijuana establishments," and amend the prefatory sentence thereafter by adding the words "and marijuana establishments" after the word dispensaries. 4, amend section 440.2A by adding the words "and recreation" after the word health. 5, amend section 440.2A, C, 1D, and 1H, 2, 2, 3, 4B, and 5 through 12 by replacing the phrase "registered marijuana dispensary" whenever it therein appears with the phrase "registered marijuana dispensary" and/or "marijuana establishment." 6, amend section 440.2B by deleting all of the first paragraph as it appears after the phrase "except as permitted under this section," and by placing a period at the end of the phrase. Delete the second paragraph. The existing third paragraph shall become the new second paragraph. 7, amend section 440.2C, 1C, by beginning the clause with the words "in the case of a registered marijuana dispensary," and change the existing first word from an uppercase A to a lowercase a. 8, delete section 491, temporary moratoria, and section 492, prohibition of marijuana establishments in their entirety. The text of the current bylaw and the complete text of the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw are available for inspection during normal hours of business of the Scituate Town Hall at the offices of the town clerk and the planning board at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate, Mass., and on the Town of Scituate website on the planning board webpage under proposed bylaw changes. Any person wishing to comment on these proposed zoning amendments should appear at the public hearing at the time and date designated above. Written comments on the zoning amendments will also be accepted by the planning board prior to the public hearing. The planning board office is available 545-8730 for further information. Okay. All right, who is presenting this article? Would you come forward, please, and identify yourself?
Hi, I'm Keith Saunders, 90 Summer Street. I don't know where to begin. What questions do you have?
All right. Then I will say, first of all, we do have a letter from Barbara Quinlan, which I will read into the record. I wish to state that I am opposed to an amendment of the marijuana zoning bylaw as proposed by the petition under consideration this week. This item was before town meeting and was previously voted down. There already exists zoning for medical marijuana facilities. Delivery of marijuana is soon to be allowed by the Cannabis Control Commission. Residents will be able to order online. To me, the benefits of this business are far outweighed by the negative impacts. There is a strong recovery community based in Scituate, and the South Shore Peer Recovery Organization has its center in Cole Parkway, serving all of the South Shore. The Scituate Facts Coalition, established 10 years ago, is working to reduce underage use of alcohol and other drugs. I am currently serving as clerk of the Friends of Scituate Facts and am passionate about giving our young people the best opportunity to avoid substances until they come of age. Having recreational sales of marijuana in our town would increase access and would further encourage the acceptance of use of a substance that is exacerbating underlying mental health issues in our youth. The legislation of recreational use of marijuana in Massachusetts has not addressed the potency of products that can be sold, nor the issue of operating under the influence, for which as yet there is no equivalent to an alcohol breathalyzer. The argument that our town will gain 3% of gross sales and taxes does not wash with me. This is a destination town, not easily accessible to passing traffic. 3% of a small number is a small number. Please consider carefully the impact on our youth.
Could I have a copy of that so I might address it?
Yes, but I would like to make a statement before we begin.
Well, I'd like to have a copy so I might address this.
All right.
Introduce this before you make a statement and respond.
Excuse me, sit down, sir. I will make a
I'm
statement.
about to sit down.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to have a copy of this to address this before, since you introduced it, before you rejoined my response before I can respond.
Thank you, sir. I am very concerned, very concerned.
I'm asking whether I can respond to
No,
your...
you may not,
So
at this moment in time.
you're lecturing me.
No, I'm not, sir.
Yes, you are.
You are out of order. I am very concerned about this citizens petition for a number of different reasons. Not for or against marijuana dispensaries, but rather the lack of time to truly and thoughtfully vet this bylaw. This is very important. It should not be run up the flagpole in a heartbeat. The town warrant closed on the 24th of August. This citizens petition came in on the 23rd. This is really not fair to the citizens of this town, whether you are for or against this article. We need more time as a town, as a planning board, to sit down with the proponents and with the opponents to come up with what I consider to be a consensus of this bylaw. Doing it this way does all of us and the town of Scituate a tremendous disservice. And I think under the circumstances, this article should be indefinitely postponed until such time as we can, as a community, as a board, come to some type of a knowledgeable path forward. We would hear further, we would sit down with people offline to talk about this, come back probably in October, November, open meetings, hearings, etc., and let everybody's voice be heard. And then it would be placed on the warrant for April's town meeting, which is where it should be in the first place, not at a special, and not when the last gun is fired. And I feel very, very strongly about this. So,
Are you complete? Are you done?
would you not be rude?
I'm just asking, are you done?
Are there comments from the board concerning this?
May I actually respond to what you said and introduce to the record so that we can do this before you get rejoinders? May I actually respond?
Yes, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Ms. Burbine. You said that the town voted against this. How much study was done before then, between the time it was legalized and the time that the town voted against it? How much study was commissioned?
I cannot answer that question.
That would be none. So you're saying that we can't pass this now because there was no study, and we submitted the petition by the deadline, which makes it completely legal by the deadline, and you're saying we can't consider it because it was submitted by the deadline,
I
right?
did not say that,
Yes,
sir.
you did.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. You said that this thing was submitted just the day before the deadline and that we
Not
shouldn't
giving us
consider it.
enough enough time to adequately consider this?
We had 3 years to consider it. We banned it 3 years ago without considering it. You said we had enough time to consider this. We banned it without considering it. Now you're saying that my petition, which was filed legally before the deadline, is too soon. After 3 years of legal sales, 7 years of legal sales in Colorado, we know what happens when you open a cannabis store in a town in Massachusetts. The only thing this ban does, it doesn't ban me from growing it because I'm growing it. It doesn't ban me from possessing it because I possess it. It doesn't ban me from sharing it because I share it. It doesn't ban me from turning it into other products like food and concentrates and things that are sold in dispensaries and not labeling and not packaging them, just leaving them out in my kitchen because I can legally do that. The only thing this ban bans is the town collecting the tax. And what good reason do you have for the town not to collect 3% on every dollar of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are spent by Scituate residents every month on cannabis? They're not buying it from stores. Eventually they will. They're going to Rockland, they're going to Marshfield, they're going to Quincy, they're going to Hanover. But a lot of it, 70% of it by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission is not bought through tax stores. That is changing. As the price decreases, that is going to be the change. Now, the concern on the part of the person who wrote here about delivery is going to be happening in Scituate, you are turning every single doorstep in Scituate into a tax portal for another town. Rockland or Marshfield or Quincy or Brockton or wherever the delivery service, 3% of that dollar goes out of that front door in Scituate right into their town's coffers. People are already buying cannabis. Why not get the 3%? What good reason do we have not to collect it? That's what I'm asking.
You may be absolutely correct, sir, but I respectfully disagree that it is all about the 3% tax money, which is why I really think that it is in everyone's best interest that we sit down and have a reasonable, rational discussion about this. A public forum.
This is a public forum.
This is not an adequate public forum.
Petitioning the government for a redress of grievances is an adequate public forum. Thank you, ma'am.
Maybe we want to take a step back.
Yeah, that's,
Maybe we want to take a step back, and maybe you would like to provide us a brief summary of what each of the petitioned articles does.
Certainly.
And start there.
Yes.
And then we have several other questions that perhaps you could answer to help the board and the audience figure out where we're going with this.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. The first petition essentially allows Scituate to accommodate by asking the legislature to permit 3 cannabis licensed businesses within the town's border. The second petition is asking the planning board where we might be able to locate these businesses in such a way as they are in comparison and in compliance with Massachusetts law regarding legal cannabis. We want to open up essentially a small business that, yes, caters adult products just like our alcohol distributors. Our 30 licensed alcohol distributors cater products. We want to establish it so that the thousands of Scituate residents and all of our tourists and people from neighboring towns want to be able to come into this town and purchase cannabis and pay taxes just as it's legal in the entirety of the Commonwealth. That's all.
So based on that, why do you need special legislation, and why did you not put it in an article to remove the general bylaw?
Because the town prohibited. I am not the legal expert. Our attorney, Rich Bowen, who you all know, is incapable of attending tonight's meeting, but he would have absolutely the explanation that you wish to seek. And makes perfect sense. You can't have a cannabis establishment without having a place to locate it. And if you are permitting the beauty of this is, if it gets voted down that we can't have the cannabis establishment, we're not going to proceed with the zoning. So that's going to be taken off of the table there. Because there's no sense if you're going to vote down, if the town decides, hey, we don't want to lift the ban, the moratorium, then there's no reason for us to change the zoning. So yours is a secondary situation, and it's only going to come into effect if we have the town's approval to have cannabis businesses. And then the businesses take on multiple forms. There's not just dispensaries. There are co-ops, there are, delivery services, there are varieties, there's of different things, testing labs and so forth. The town does not have to engage in actual commerce in that direct way, but it's something that we need to open up. I mean, this is capitalism, people. This is a legal substance.
Town council?
I have several questions about the process here.
Sure.
Aside from the questions raised by Chairperson Burbine about the length of time and the amount of public input and a chance to bounce back and forth, what are the best zoning questions? Because this is a zoning hearing, and where is the best place and all the details of the zoning. I do agree that more time should be had to truly vet that, so that the best zoning article can be put forth for the town to vote on. I do not understand the need for any special legislation. I have talked to DOS, I've talked to other attorneys who specialize in this, I've dealt with my own other cities and towns. Right now, you have a general bylaw that says no marijuana allowed in Scituate. You have a zoning bylaw that says no marijuana allowed in Scituate. To have marijuana allowed in Scituate, you need to get rid of the general bylaw and you need to get rid of the zoning bylaw. It would be in everyone's best interest, if that was the plan, to make sure you also put in a zoning bylaw that would regulate it before you take away prohibition. Otherwise, you won't have any regulation in place at all. All you need to change zoning bylaws is a 2/3 vote at town meeting. All you need to change a general bylaw is a majority vote at town meeting. There is no need for special legislation. Some communities, even though it is not required, have decided that because their towns or their communities are so engaged in the process and so adamant one way or the other that they've made a choice, and it is a choice, not a legal requirement, to put it to the local ballot as well as town meeting. But I've talked to a lot of people, I've looked at everything, I see no requirement in the statute, I don't understand why there would be a need or why you would want to go special legislation, which only requires a simple majority vote at town meeting to go to the legislature, which would get rid of all of your prohibitions. Even if you didn't pass the existing zoning, you would then have potentially special legislation. But you don't need special legislation, and I don't know why the legislature would take on a petition from a town where it's set forth this very elaborate scheme, specifically preserving a lot of town input and room for local controls, that the town can do without special legislation. So I don't think it's necessary, I don't think it's warranted, and I don't know that it would be acted upon, but I do know to get to that point, you only need a majority vote of the town at town meeting, as opposed to 2/3 for zoning. And 2/3 is harder to get, and what is really needed. The other thing, you say you want to limit it to 3. To me, sitting here legally, that at the moment is a policy decision that someone has made. We think 3 is a magic number. Well, okay, I looked at it. The statute says, without going back to your voters for a ballot question and also a town meeting vote, you can have no fewer than 20% of your package
So
licenses.
you can have no more than, not no
No, you
fewer.
can't limit it to less than.
Yes, but you can have no more than 20% of
You can have more, you don't have
No,
to
you
limit.
can't, well, yes, all right.
You
But you cannot
cannot limit.
limit less than.
Correct, you cannot limit marijuana facilities to less than 20% of your package facilities. In Scituate, that number is 9. So we looked at it.
We only
Nine.
have 30.
I was told that it was 9 package stores.
We
But
have-
wait, can I finish, please? I don't think. you're
Excuse me,
going to be
Mr.
upset
Saunders,
with me.
do not interrupt her again,
I don't
please.
think you're going to be upset with me. We did the math and we said, okay, that's it's roughly 2, under 2. So we were thinking that maybe you wanted special legislation to bypass going back to the electorate because you wanted less than what you could do under the existing state law. But you're above that limit. So you don't need anyone's authority other than town meeting authority to say, yeah, we think 3 is a good number. Whether it's a good number or not, that's a policy decision for the town. But legally, there's nothing prohibiting you right now, other than your existing zoning and general bylaw.
Well, I would defer legally everything to Rich Bowen. I'm not an attorney, I'm a sociologist, so I have no idea. Zoning is not my thing. You're guys at the zoning board, you've got all the background and all that sort of stuff, but it seems to me that if you have a legal product that's approved by the town for sale, you gotta have some place to sell it. That's all. And we're trying to propose the places that are gonna fit best. I personally paid for a study of the town for retail cannabis back in 2015. The best comparison to a cannabis store is a gas station in terms of traffic. People come in, they stay for 10 minutes or less, and then they leave. Scarsaloni's was identified as the ideal spot in Scituate because of its proximity to Norwell, Marshfield, Cohasset, Hull, and downtown. After that, the Driftway Medical Building, also just, be on 3A and somewhere proximate to 3A. Scituate Harbor is a mixed bag. I mean, if somebody wants to take the risk of opening up a business on Scituate Harbor and trying to sell and survive from October through April, that's their choice. North Scituate's better. The old Jamie's Pub site, unfortunately, is a little bit too close to the playground. You have to be within 500 feet. You folks obviously, understand the difference between the property lines. We're not asking for you to change anything, just basically if you can open up a liquor store or a CVS or something like that, and it's within the parameters of the cannabis law in Massachusetts, then why not?
All right, any comment from the board?
Well, I would respectfully disagree with you that we have not had enough time. We have been sitting on this since the last town meeting that we voted this on. And I have watched dispensaries grow exponentially across the state and watched how many tax dollars those towns are taking in, which is one of those issues. I did see you explain your other article last night to the, 2 nights ago to the Board of Selectmen. I understand everything you're talking about, and I think that part of this is a small business opportunity that we have to embrace. And one of our jobs on the planning board is to provide economic incentives and identify where we can put businesses. I think a philosophical question for us, which we need to leave at the door, is whether we approve of this or not and look at it from a business point of view. And I am absolutely willing to do that and to listen to any arguments pro and con about what people have to say about this. But to me, to leave this kind of money on the table is almost sinful for a town like Scituate. It's my 2 cents.
Rebecca?
Ben, why don't you go first?
I think in general, I agree with Patty in the sense that, this petition from a legality perspective was brought within the time frame, and that, I'm more than willing to hear it. Whether I feel it, we had enough time or not, that's philosophical, and I'll just do my best to remain unbiased. For full disclosure, I voted against the ban initially, and I still agree with that opinion. I think an important thing to bring up that I don't know if it was Rich or somebody noted in the documents were provided, is that soon you're going to have doorstep retail available anyways for delivery, at which point businesses in surrounding communities will just be delivering to our residents anyways. So I think that's something that needs to be kept in mind going forward, because I think it is an important aspect to how this whole industry is going to grow and develop, and what sort of local controls we might be able to have over that aspect of the business in our community. And that's really all I have for now. I would say that I also agree with Patty that I don't want to get mired in the weeds of a philosophical discussion on this. I want to stick to facts and really as it applies to zoning, economic development, and potential impacts to our town.
Bob?
I'm with Ben on this one. I don't, I'm not sure whether it's a good idea or not, but I think that the right place for citizens of the town to express that approval or disapproval is at town meeting. As far as the timing goes, I have no issues if you complied with it. However, I do agree with Ann that this might be more appropriate for an annual town meeting as opposed to a special town meeting, or a regular town meeting. But other than that, that's all I have.
Rebecca? So your zoning, your thoughts of where to put this, when you said Scarcelloni's, you mean across the street from the gas station?
No, at the gas station.
Well, people don't
But
know-
that's not gonna happen. That's never, don't, just wipe that out. That was identified by the forefront advisors that I hired. They said that's the ideal location because you can mix the gas station with the cannabis store, have a full-service, old-school gas station where they change the oil, check your tire pressure, do the, little detail stuff, valet park your car as you're in the store buying your cannabis, because the traffic patterns are almost exactly the same.
Mr. Saunders, people don't know that that's not Scazzalonis. You have to be here a long time to know
Yes.
that that's
All right.
not identified as Scazzalonis
It's
anymore.
the Sunoco at Manlot and 3A.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what that is. Yeah.
It just basically built on the side, because there's a bunch of open land there, but that's not a consideration, and neither is the Driftway Medical Building. So their recommendation was get as close to 3A as possible, because your traffic's gonna be coming in from Cohasset, Marshfield, and Norwell. Scituate only has, its own core, and they're located mostly towards the coast, so you need to they all come inland eventually, because they travel to Boston, or Hanover, or wherever. So they're gonna pass in that direction, but you need to pull the people from the north, the south, and the west. And so that's why they said this is the best ideal location. The Driftway location is great because of its traffic, just in general. It's the highest traffic area in the town. And then North Situate's okay, and then north, that little area where the tennis and athletic club is, right at the Cohasset border. Also, well, Scituate Harbor, generally speaking, is not ideal. It's not that it couldn't support something. I mean, we have a liquor store in Scituate Harbor that's done fine. We had two of them at one point, more than two. But yeah, it'll do great in the summertime. It'll straggle a little bit in the wintertime, relatively speaking. I mean, it'll still bring in tens of thousands of dollars a day, but it won't be the booming business that it would be in the summertime. Whereas anything near 3A is gonna have more steady traffic, so it's gonna have steadier business.
Just one more quick question, because I know we should get to the public. Do you know how much some of these dispensaries are bringing in per month, or?
Well, it depends upon the dispensary. Situate's gonna be a destination dispensary, because obviously we don't have Route 3 like Rockland does. Rockland has 2 and they're gonna have 3 soon. We don't have the commercial density that Marshfield has, so Marshfield gonna have 2 soon. But Scituate has its own niche. I mean, we have, as you might have seen, thousands of monthly users. We are migrating from the unregulated, unlicensed, untaxed market into the tax market as prices are falling in the tax market. So Scituate can sustain a retail operation plus ancillary cannabis businesses like testing or a co-op or cultivation situation. And really, ideally, what Scituate needs is that we produce things here and brand them as Scituate, like Vermont did it with all of their stuff. Vermont is pure and green and clean and organic and all beautiful. Scituate can be the same thing. We're gonna have oyster beds soon, we can have cannabis, we have beer, right? We got Untold Brewing, all of their branding, if you looked at it. Seatown, 143, Rebecca, Abigail, I mean, it's just like, this is it. And they survived COVID because they brew it Scituate and sell in Norwell and Marshfield and Hanover and Hingham and so forth. That's how they did it. They didn't survive because they depended upon people showing up. So cannabis businesses in Scituate that build themselves on a similar model of bringing in revenue from other towns will do fine. Whether it's testing or whether it's cultivation or whether it's retail.
Karen?
As this is a citizen petition where the board is not allowed to change anything, and so I didn't really start to look at other towns' zoning bylaws for marijuana establishments and dispensaries until today. And several of the popular surrounding towns of Rockland and Marshfield both have separate zoning bylaws for a dispensary versus a marijuana establishment. And some of the items that they include in their zoning bylaw are not in our zoning bylaw. So my question is, why not? Why the special town meeting? Why not study it a little bit more and work together to try to do something for the annual town meeting where you'll have more people coming and be able to voice their opinions?
Because we can legally do this. There's no reason for us to delay. It's been 3 years. We've had plenty of time to study it. We know from other states like Colorado, when you open up a dispensary, nothing really changes except that you get more tax revenue.
But, I mean, how did you make a determination of where in the town you wanted to locate these establishments?
In commercial districts.
Well, I was told it was based on microbreweries.
Yes, that was Rich's design, but the idea is commercial districts. Any place where you could produce a deadly neurotoxin like alcohol, you can produce a neurogenerative like cannabinoids.
So where on the zoning map do you envision, I mean, we have the zoning map up on the wall, where do you envision?
That's Rich's specialization. I am the sociologist who has experience in cannabis policy reform and social movements. Rich is doing the legal side because he is town council in Wareham and knows all of the laws and has written a whole bunch of stuff in order to make town meetings and so forth go better, and he knows the zoning laws far better than I do. And I'm not the be-all and end-all of this movement to legalize cannabis sales in Scituate.
All right.
So maybe it's important that we talk to Rich.
Excuse me, would you identify
Of
yourself?
course, I'm sorry, Amber Galvin, here as a town employee at Scituate Tax, and I have other comments and can also answer questions if anyone has questions for me. But I specifically had a question about zoning. You're absolutely right about having specific zoning for the different business types. It's very clear in the municipal guidance document on the Cannabis Control Commission's website, describing the different license types that are available in Massachusetts, including craft cooperatives, testing facilities, cultivation facilities, all kinds of things that are like wholesale or light industrial uses, none of which bring revenue to the town. Zero revenue, possibly jobs, and certainly other diversity of business, but they don't bring the 3%, which seems to be the big draw for many people who might be on the fence. But specifically, there's certainly different types of zoning for the different types of businesses. The general bylaw or the special legislative change that the petitioners have brought forth just say to allow 3 marijuana establishments. So marijuana establishments is a bucket term which just applies to all the business types that aren't medical. We already have medical and medical zoning. It's all the other ones. And that's it. So I am just realizing when the town council spoke that if the proposed zoning change, the citizen petition that we're here to discuss tonight happens, which just takes away the ban, and then we have a void of no zoning on October 26th, potentially?
Can I answer this?
Yes.
If you go special legislation, which I don't see any lawful justification for, you did not implement a zoning bylaw, you would be in a situation where the legislature would have said, no more ban in Scituate. Now, if it's not prohibited, it's allowed.
Right.
And if you don't have zoning restrictions, it can go anywhere.
Like on people's
So-
doorsteps.
But you really need to make sure, if you want to be able to regulate, which every single community I've seen wants to regulate where these go, you want to make sure that you have a thought-out zoning bylaw ready to go. The other thing, if we're talking about timeframes, and, you know, I could be wrong on this, but I have not seen any, aside from the fact whether they'll do this or whether we need it, I have not seen any special legislation come through the legislature in the time it will take for you to go to a spring town meeting. So I don't think that by putting the special legislation and the zoning in place now, you're going to be ahead of the game any more than you would be if you waited till a spring town meeting, did not go special legislation, but did what you do need to do, which is get rid of the general bylaw as well as the zoning bylaw.
But you replace the zoning bylaw with actual zoning.
Yes.
Yes, but
We need
you have,
zoning for
you
all
have
these
two
business types.
prohibitions. You have a general bylaw that says no marijuana establishments. You have a zoning bylaw that says no marijuana establishments. Both of those need to go out the window and be off the books so you can have marijuana establishments. You need the zoning in place so you can regulate and control where the town wants to have these.
Well, I'm flabbergasted that our former town moderator doesn't know what you and I know about this, so I have a big red flag.
All right, all right.
May I respond?
No, not,
No, I might not respond to these
Hold on,
comments.
hold
hold
on,
on.
hold on, hold on. This was my point in the very beginning, that we really need more time to vet this process. I have to say that to petition the legislature for up to 3 marijuana establishments, which we're not hearing here this evening, disenfranchises the entire town of Scituate. And I have a real problem with that. I really, truly do, regardless of how you feel about it, sir. I still think very strongly that this should be put on hold so that we can have public meetings, come to some type of an agreement about what we want to do. And I will grant you, Patty, I agree, 3 years, but nobody's really been talking about it until right now. So it's right now.
So, Mr. Saunders, what I would say to you is that whether we approve or disapprove, what we're asking you to do is to take a step back, give us all a chance to reconvene, come meet with us, and let's write a bylaw that
That works.
absolutely addresses this particular. And while I understand your frustration that it is legal, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose everything, which is potentially could happen if we're not very careful. So we're talking a distance of, what, a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So, and I understand your frustration, but
It's not frustration.
Well,
It's understanding.
yeah.
20 years of doing this. I
I know.
understand the delay. I
well, I
understand
understand.
the ask for delay. I
But
understand.
but
We don't do that.
But understand on our point that while there are 5 of us up here,
Yep.
and we make this very weighty, heavy decision,
I understand.
we need to bring this to town meeting, and whether we want it to fail or not, we are very vested in zoning bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be will behoove you to listen to what we have to say to you about stepping back and let us rewrite the zoning bylaw that will address this particular marijuana dispensary establishment, co-op, labs, whatever else you want to call them. So I think that's what we're asking. We're not asking you to take this off the table completely. We're asking you to step back and help us write a bylaw.
Again, I would say Richard Bowen is the person who's going to help you write the bylaw. I am
No,
not
it's
an
not
attorney.
here.
So that's.
I know he's not here, but you're saying to give me time, which means he's going to be here.
Excuse me, town council, and then I'll call on you.
The one thing, and it's not specific to this citizen's petition, and it's not specific to this topic or subject matter at all,
but it's a fact about citizen petitions. We can't change them. They go on the warrant and they make it or break it on their own. Because it is a zoning amendment, my experience has been, and I don't think anyone who's been through a town meeting where zoning has been torn apart on the floor would say differently. You do not want to be in a situation where you're arguing the pros and cons of, is it 3, is it 2, do we want it in the harbor, do we want to prohibit it in the harbor, on town meeting floor where you end up with a patchwork and a motion of a zoning bylaw. That doesn't do anybody a service, and the process is such that because it's coming to the public, already on the warrant, already defined the way you have decided it should work, which may be ultimately the best way, I'm not saying anything about the merits, there is no real room to change the article, even if everybody, including yourself, thinks, oh, I didn't think about this, that would have been good. And so then you're in a position of then having to come back to another town meeting and try to amend the zoning to fix it, if it's something that could then be fixed. That's my only point from a legal perspective, is process-wise, citizen petitions with zoning, leave very little room for making something a better bylaw. Even
that's
if
the
it's
point.
as simple as, even if you win and town meeting says, yay, we love this bylaw, we're gonna have it, but we really don't think we need to go to the legislature, and we're going to. You can't go into effect until the spring anyway, because you don't even have a bylaw, an article on the town meeting warrant to eliminate the general bylaw.
Well, if we don't have if we can't eliminate the general bylaw to prohibit businesses, there's no sense in modifying.
But you can at a town
Yeah.
meeting,
You
you
can.
have an article
You
to
could.
act on.
Right. So,
You can
Excuse
not,
me,
we
Mr.
can go in there and tell people not to vote for it. I mean, it's very
Mr.
simple.
Saunders, excuse me. No. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mary Schlegel, 9 Westgate Lane. I would just like to point out that this zoning bylaw change, which is what we're here talking about tonight, is the zoning areas that are identified on the map and on the papers that you guys received. They're all by special permit. So if you wanted to open a dispensary, you still need to go in front of you guys and get a special permit. So it's saying that this is approved is not saying this is approved, have at it, do whatever you want. We have these few controlled areas that are zoned, and we can talk about these few controlled areas specifically when somebody's coming in front of you with a business. Somebody might come to Scituate and, this could all pass and be regulated, and people are like, no, maybe not Scituate, maybe Marshfield, maybe Home, maybe some other town, maybe it's not the best business, but there is definitely room in this zoning amendment for special permit and input on the local show.
Yes.
I have a question.
Would you please identify
I'm
yourself?
sorry. Liz Charlton, I'm in Scituate, I live on Charles Avenue. I happen to be a realtor, I work in Harvard. Several years ago, the harbor, there was one concession on Cole Parkway. And a study was done to reroute the traffic around Cole Parkway, around Cleveland, and out by CBS and out by Concord. And the study was done. This seems to warrant a study of its own. Is it unreasonable for town residents to request a study to be organized, to study the impact on the town, the various business districts? I feel like we're ahead of ourselves. So even though you've done your homework and you've had your study done, we haven't had our study done. So as a resident, I would like to see a full study done to see how indeed it would impact the town. I like Rich Rowan very much. I've known him for a long time. So he's done his legal work. I understand that Mike Westbrook, who's on our advisory committee, he is the CEO of the Marijuana District, in Marshfield at 129, and Rockland. So they've done their homework. But for the rest of us, we're still learning about what it is we want to do.
Wow.
I think it's appropriate.
Mr. Saunders.
A study? Is that?
No, it's not a study.
May I
Mr.
respond? There's no sense in the town spending money on a study that can't happen.
Okay, Mr. Saunders, that's presumptuous.
No, you're saying that it's not going to pass, so why spend money by the
No,
town to
what-
study
what-
something that you don't want to have
But I
pass?
would really like to see happen here, and I know you will disagree with me,
Mm-hmm.
and members of my board disagree with me, and that's fine. It's no big deal. I would like to have this bylaw rewritten properly, regardless of Mr. Bowen, to present to town meeting in April along with the general bylaw, rather than going to the state legislature. If you were willing to do that, sir, we could start as soon as possible. You would come in,
As soon as possible was 3 years ago.
Mr. Saunders. You may have been studying all of this for the last 3 years.
30, but
Whatever.
Mhm.
None of us sitting in this room, for the most part, have the advantage that you have. Okay? I would like the people that are here to be given that advantage.
Sure. Would you like unlicensed and unregulated sales on, say, Chittenden Road or down on Summer
That
Street?
is not what I am talking about,
Well,
sir.
that's what you're going to get with delivery.
All right, we are running around in circles here, and we are getting nowhere fast. So,
We're not stepping back, we're not retreating, this is not what we do. I've fought this battle, this is a war declared on the American people by the government, and we're not
Oh.
stepping back.
all
We're
right,
moving
thank
forward.
you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Saunders.
They called it the drug war, they didn't call it the drug piece of the drug solution, they called it a war.
Excuse me, Mr. Saunders.
Yes.
Rather-
One thing, I think that in the future, it might, if we had rewritten bylaws, general bylaws and zoning bylaws that were agreed upon, even if opening up a marijuana establishment required a special permit, having rewritten bylaws is going to be important because it gives us a better baseline from which we could actually do the special permit. And that's why we're saying, let's
understand.
get this done through the bylaws as opposed to
But
the
you,
legislature.
but you understand
You know,
that it's been 3 years and you haven't taken a step yet.
Why would we? It was not.
Exactly, why would you?
Well,
Until
then
somebody
you
put it in
didn't-
front of you and said, you have to take steps.
All right,
Mr.
enough.
Saunders, you're not helping your case.
No, you're not.
Sorry.
Mr. Bajorklin, you have something you would like to say, sir?
Yeah, I don't really want to take either side of the actual issue itself. I'm a non-user, it doesn't matter to me, but I have about 39 years' experience of changing zoning bylaws in the town of Scituate. And I can tell you that if you go in with mixed groups, either way, you might as well not show up.
That's
It won't
right.
pass. If you go with your bylaw and it doesn't pass, you won't be coming back for 2 years. So take what they're telling you to heart, because you may get there just as fast by holding up just a little bit.
As I said, I'm going to talk with Rich Bowen and see what he has to say about this entire matter. I am not the attorney, I am not the zoning person
All right,
on
then
this thing, I am just the face of it.
Okay, I'll entertain a couple of more questions. We do have a public hearing that was supposed to start at 7:30, so I'll take two more from the audience. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Molly Good. I live at 9 Berkshire Road. It's actually a street that is right next to the Greenbush business zone. And while I know many people do not want to enter into the philosophical debate on this issue, I don't think that we can make a decision on economic development without considering the impact on the community. And so I want to just go back to that a little bit. And I feel that I'm not in support of recreational, what is the word now? It's not.
Adult use marijuana businesses.
So I do have some concern with that phrasing. So I don't know if it's going to turn into just consumption sites or cafes and living right next to that. I don't know what that word means now, okay? So that word is changing from dispensary. I understand dispensary, but I don't know what comes with that word. And living right next to that business district, that causes me concern. I'm a mom of 2 high school students here in Scituate. I teach at a public high school in the city in Western here. And so dealing with our students and the consumption of weed is an issue that we deal with every day. And the misconception, if you will, is that weed is not that bad among my students. And so there is scientific evidence that proves young adults who smoke marijuana before the age of 25
will experience brain damage. Marijuana has been proven to affect learning and memory, and thereby contributing to school failure. So I'm just trying to look at this as a big picture. I need us to consider the impact on the town. I think that you have a responsibility for economic development, I get that, but you cannot consider this decision without considering do the benefits outweigh the cost, okay? As someone who's thinking about this business taking place 1 street over from my house, like, the things that concern me are the lack of law enforcement's ability to regulate people who operate motor vehicles under the influence of this. So if someone's going to visit one of these new establishments and drive through my streets where kids are playing, and you know what I mean, like, these are just real concerns that I have as someone who lives right next to this business here. I do think that we would be putting our citizens at risk by allowing these establishments. And as far as the increased revenue, we just have to ask ourselves at what cost. And so, you know, you can't, I get it, like, you can still weed, do it, great, it's your right. You can't overdose from weed. I say that to my students all the time. You can overdose from edibles. I've had students taken out on stretchers. They eat them, they don't realize that it's taking effect, so they keep eating more of it, and then their pulse stops, and we're taking them on stretchers out of my school. Has happened. Legitimately? Absolutely. So at any rate, I don't think that we can ignore the philosophical, if you will, in making a decision of this magnitude.
Okay, one more person, yes, sir.
How did you pick the locations, and why did Craig Guy 168 Stockbridge Road? And I have concerns because the Greenbush area seems like it's a dumping ground for everything. And I was wondering how we picked these, where and how we picked this area, and why did we pick it. We can't get swing sets or swings for our children in our community if we can't get sidewalks on Stockbridge Road, but we want to put a dispensary that's going to bring all this money. What's it going to do to benefit us?
Well,
Because women. I mean,
okay, I can.
And another thing is, drug addiction in this town has affected probably every family in this room. We really have to look at this and say, is it worth it? Remember when the train was coming in? I worked for the team for 24 years. We talked about the element of people that's going to come in and steal from us and, you know, rob us and take the TVs on the train, right? What's the elements going to come in from this? How is my grandchildren going to be affected by it? I'm not saying no, but why Greenbush?
All right.
Because Greenbush is a dumping ground, and we should oppose it. Anything that comes into Greenbush, the traffic, everything that's bad is being dumped on us. Give us something good.
All right, I'm going to make it one more.
My Stacy Fletcher and Berkshire Road, to Liz's point, there should be a study done on this by the town. I understand the planning, you want the 3% tax, right? But there's dispensaries going up everywhere. What is the economic benefit going to be to Scituate when there's dispensaries everywhere? I don't know that the dollars are going to be as much as you think they are, because now dispensaries are everywhere, home delivery. It's going to be like a liquor store. Does the town benefit that much from the tax from the liquor store? I think that needs to be considered by the board. I mean, we need business, but I don't think we need this type of business. And I'm also a resident in Greenbush and certainly don't want it in my backyard.
All right, thank you, madam. All right, I think under the circumstances, we're not going to come to any type of an agreement this evening. Therefore, we'll continue this.
We could continue the public hearing, or we could close the public hearing if the board has heard enough information. If the board feels that they want more information, is it possible you think Mr. Bowen is going to be healthy by next Thursday?
I hope he is. I hope he's healthy tomorrow.
I would say we might need more time.
All right, then.
Or we have, potentially, you could continue it to September 16th. Your next planning board hearing after that is October 14th. That is beyond when the warrant will be published, but that's, you can still go on your public hearing, and the advisory board and selectmen would have to report at town meeting.
Okay.
So could I just say one more thing?
Yes, you may.
So, Mr. Saunders, please be aware of what Mr. Buellko told you. And if you've been a resident here for a long time, you have seen zoning torn apart on town meeting floor, and nobody gets what they want at all,
Ever.
ever.
This is not the zoning that I asked for. This
So
is, again, I delegated this to somebody who knows
I know.
exactly
We-
what he's doing, and
And unfortunately, he's not here, and
Yes, I
I
know.
kind of know, like, where he's coming from. So I really want you to take under great advisement that you go back and you tell Mr. Bowen, that, Mrs. Lambert, I can tell you right now, you want this to be a definitive bylaw before it goes to the floor.
all right.
Because other than that, you could just throw this away for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So give you the best shot you can, and that would be my advice to you.
And your best shot would be to pull back with this and allow us
Right, Dad.
to rectify this zoning article that you have, as well as the general bylaw, and have it come forward in April. So we will continue this until the 14th of October. At what time, Karen?
Not the 16th of September?
No.
No, have to be
No.
October.
October.
Well, we don't have anything continued right now as of yet, so the soonest we could have it at 6:30 on October 14th.
Fine. 6:30 on October 14th, and at that point, hopefully, Mr. Bowen will be available. If he would like to call the planning office, would be more than happy to sit down with him before that meeting to go through all of this with him, with our concerns,
Okay.
and go from there.
Well,
All right.
And to provide more explicit directions to the petitioner, for Mr. Bowen, I, based off of what council has kind of let us know, I guess I would also like to know a little, and based off the comments from the board and members of the public, I'd like to know a little bit more about the rationale of why you're taking this particular route. That's actually my hang up on this, otherwise I could probably close it tonight, but I really need to understand that, because it seems like
I
there's
understand all of your concerns about that. I hope that you understand that we didn't get to this point by accepting people saying, wait until there's more study done. That's not how we got here, because otherwise we'd still be waiting for more study to be
We're
done.
not doing
Because
this
study
study.
doesn't happen until it's done.
We're not telling you
Yes.
We're
that.
not telling you that. All right.
Except that you said that you wanted more study done.
No,
We don't
no.
want more study done, we want more information from Mr.
Information.
Bowen.
All right, more information coming from Rich Bowen as soon as he is capable of doing so,
Thank you.
and I will ask him to do that. Thank you very much for your time.
All right,
Thank you for your questions. I've appreciated this.
I move
Thank
to
you.
continue the public hearing for the proposed zoning amendments for Article 11 marijuana establishments to Thursday, October 14th at 6:30 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
thank you. Okay,
I have a screaming headache.
I'll give you some.
We're just getting started.
Huh?
We're just getting started.
Oh, this is gonna be a cluster right here.
Oh, yeah.
What is marijuana thing?
No, we're just getting started on this next thing.
Wait, this is gonna
I know. So you said you have a headache now, just wait a little while.
Well, me too.
So they can just get a simple majority.
I know.
Pros and cons.
If this goes to town meeting again, I can't hear anymore. I can't, well, no, and I can't hear anymore back and forth about God's sake, the kids. The stoner that ended up in my above ground pool one night, and then people arguing that they've smoked their whole life, and look at me, and I can't listen to that again for hours on end. It's so mind numbing. It's just, people just vote yes or no. I don't know, it just drives me crazy. Whatever. Yeah.
Is it 21 to buy?
but also I don't
I
want.
think it's 21. Marijuana's 21. Yeah.
You know, I'd love to be able to just be like, nope, sorry, see you later, but that's not our job.
So I guess you get all this once you do it.
She did better in this setting than at the town meeting.
All right.
Falling asleep.
All right, it is now 8 o'clock, and we are an hour, or half an hour beyond our
Would take a 2/3 vote.
continued public hearing, stormwater and site plan review common driveway for 533 Country Way. Applicant owner Marvin Holmes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come again. No. Come again. No. Come again. No. No. Come again. No. Are you gonna hit me? Because I'll tell my mother and then you'll be sorry. Thank you. Me too.
So you really, is this whose name you really want to see?
You can agree to disagree.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We have to have a dialogue.
Yeah, like I said.
That's my
That might-
point.
And I agree with you there, definitely.
I don't know if that's the
Like,
sun.
they want to go with a simple majority.
Everybody
and
hears
have it
everything.
stay.
You like that?
Yeah. I do.
Oh.
No, I don't like it.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
It disenfranchises.
Yes, it does. All right,
Hear
enough.
everything.
Okay, here we are.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Jeez.
Bring any liquor, nothing.
In accordance with the Town of Scituate stormwater regulations approved 4/29/10, and with the Scituate general bylaws
Hold on.
section. What?
Yes.
Just check to make sure I didn't do it wrong.
What do we have on the
Please.
tape?
Sorry.
Settle down.
Yes,
Boy, you guys are really doing me in here tonight.
Listen, keep up.
You should be.
Keep up. We have to be fluid and flexible and fungible and all those other F words.
Oh, my good.
Oh dear,
Do we
that
have the
didn't
right
come out
one here
well. That didn't come out well.
I didn't want it to.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know why? Because we continued it. We opened it.
Wear dark sunglasses.
When it's ready to go.
So do I have to?
Take a nap.
I didn't,
We have opened it and immediately continued.
All right, so we don't need to read any of that stuff?
Yes.
Do we?
Yes.
probably not.
Then why did you give it to me?
Well, if you want to read it here.
There we go. What would you like us to say? No.
That's why.
In accordance with the Town of Scituate stormwater regulations approved 4/29/10, and with the Scituate general bylaws, section 32050, stormwater, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, September 9, 2021, at 7:30 PM, we're a little late, in the Select Board Hearing Room at Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by the applicant, Marvel Homes LLC, for a stormwater permit for property consisting of 2 approval not required lots with a common driveway at 533 Country Way. Is over 4,000 square feet of land is proposed for disturbance. A public meeting will also simultaneously be held for a site plan administrative review for a common driveway of approximately 182 linear feet to access the 2 lots off of Country Way. The property is shown on assessor's maps as parcel 26-2-5. Plans are available, Town Hall. Thank you very much. Okay. You're on.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, and I apologize.
You don't have to apologize.
No, seriously, because we kept you waiting. Therefore,
It comes with the territory.
okay, thank you.
So for the record, Greg Tansey, Ross Engineering, here representing the applicant, Marvel Homes, for 533 Country Way. And we're proposing 2 permits, a stormwater permit and a common driveway permit. I'll start with the common driveway permit, if that's okay with it's a very basic layout. I think it's neat. I think it's clean. I think it's very straightforward. We meet the regulations with the turnaround and the spur. We proposed 14 feet of width. Apparently, the deputy fire chief is insisting on 16 feet, from what I understand. I don't know if he's going to move on that, but it doesn't look like he's going to. So I have to widen each side of this common driveway by 1 foot to bring it to a total of 16 feet in width. That's a modification that I have to do. The benefits of this layout are, A, we're going to be eliminating very unsightly and restricted concrete retaining wall. It's an old wall. It's in the middle of the shoulder of the right-of-way, a country way, as you know, this is a scenic road. And it also causes the existing sidewalk in the area to be bumped closer to the country way, which can have a pretty good flow of traffic on it from time to time. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to set another nicer looking retaining wall. It's going to be outside the right of way. So, and a new sidewalk, a safer sidewalk, in my opinion, a more sightly sidewalk is going to be put in place. The common driveway is going to be approximately in the area where the existing driveway is now. It's going to be a little bit, maybe about 50 feet to the south or so. But we've got plenty of sight distances that we didn't have. This layout, I think, is a very attractive layout for a couple of reasons. The houses, as you can see, the orientation of them is the narrowest profile or elevation profile is facing the street, rather than having two houses facing the street like this, which is what we have in the development over here, although they're set further back. As somebody goes down the street with the landscaping, it's going to look a lot like, I should say, like, the impact, the visual impact is going to be a lot less than if they were put in the center of the lot and facing the street. It also eliminates a curved opening in the street, which I think is a great aesthetic value for this area. As you drive down, there's less visual impact with looking at the side of the homes, and some vegetation, some landscaping can really make it look very attractive, I think. At this point, Madam Chairman, I'd like to end that.
Okay. Karen?
So we have comments from multiple town departments. The water department would like that the exact locations of the shutoffs for each unit, they would like flexibility to address that during the field, during construction. That I think could be easily conditioned. We have comments from the fire department that the deputy chief wants the driveway at 16 feet of drivable surface. 10% is the maximum allowed grade for a fire department road, so 10% should be the maximum here. The asphalt paving is fine. 4% grade in the hammerhead is acceptable. 30 feet deep, 20 feet wide hammerhead. Minimum turning radius should be 25 feet. The Board of Health would like to have the whole Lot 1 shown with the septic components. They'd like to know if the septic conforms for a new home. The Water Resources Committee wanted verification that the first inch of rainfall from the rooftop is recharged per the Water Resource Protection District. And we have comments from the abutter, Tina Davin, and she is concerned, did the plan show the wetlands? Is conservation approved the wetlands? Can't the existing driveway be used during construction? How much fill? The amount of runoff that goes to Country Way. You know, we're having our consulting engineer review the calculations, and she wanted a request for a deed, something on the deed like 533 Country Way. In addition to that, our consulting engineer unfortunately was not able to be here tonight because you can't be in two places at one time, and because of the unfortunate mishap with the publication of the notice, but he did provide a summary of issues that I will attempt to go over. And all the issues are in the report that was provided to the applicant, but I will attempt to summarize the issues. He wanted the plans clarified, provide retaining wall details, infiltration trench with the infiltration trench. The site distance should be based on 85th percentile. Measurement should be 15 feet back. Does the board want a zoning table on the plans? Will the board require extension of survey 50 feet into adjacent properties? Does the board want full detail of the roadway, 100 feet each way required? Proposed building dimensions, footprints, those aren't provided. He asked if the wetlands have been confirmed by the Conservation Commission. The one-year storm needs to be modeled because the site is in the Water Resource Protection District. Control points should be adjusted to reflect existing drains in Country Way and flow to the abutter. He questions poor or fair ground cover conditions in the existing conditions. He wants the best data for time and flow calculations. Roof ridge lines and gutters should be, and gutters downspout calculations should be provided. He's got many issues with the various infiltration systems. I don't know if you want me to read his comments detailed, but you all got the memo.
Got the memo.
Swales do not meet design requirements and are very steep. Much more data is required to demonstrate compliance with DEP requirements. Clarify if it is a swale or a sand filter. Recharge to groundwater. There's several points that need to be addressed with the subsurface chambers. They're too close. The proposed subsurface chambers are too close to infiltration chambers to function properly. Mounting analysis requires more supporting data and documentation. 90% TSS is required in the Water Resource Protection District. More data is needed on the erosion and sediment control. A major concern is control of runoff during construction, which should be addressed in the design. O&M should be a standalone document. Where snow stockpiles will be deposited because they can't be plowed into the trenches. Infiltration trench maintenance should have more frequent inspections than once a year. He's pointed out that the water lines are below the infiltration systems, and while it's not really a concern to the water department, it's very much a concern to the planning board, because ultimately a homeowner might end up, if there's a break in the water line, having to redo the infiltration system that they weren't counting on. Ideally, the utilities are supposed to be in the common driveway easement. That's the real quick summary of the summary.
Wait.
All right. Would you care to respond?
Sure,
I knew you would.
if I can. Steve Bjorkman, some of you might not have seen me. Paul couldn't make it tonight, Paul Sharon Jr., who's actually the owner of the property, so, and I'm helping him try to permit this as well, so I've been working with Greg. We can go through first, if we separate this, it might be a little bit easier. So if we go through the comments other than Mr. Cheshire's comments, it will make some sense to the board, I think. So the first comments that she brought up was the water department. Every time we do water tie-ins, it's under the direction of the water department. So that was the only concern he had with the project. So Mr. Anderson has no problem. I was down in the office today, and we will do that at the time of construction under
You
under
will
his
put the
direction.
water where?
Put the water where he wants the shutoffs where he wants the shutoffs. This is just the shutoffs.
That's just the shutoffs,
That's
right?
just the
And
shutoffs.
that can be conditioned as well.
All right.
Right, but it will be under his direction, so we always do it that way. The Water Resource Study Committee, I don't know if you guys all got copies of Greg's stormwater report. It's kind of like War and Peace. There's a page in there that we gave separately to Karen after we received the comment from them, which highlights the fact that the first 1 inch of rain is treated to the 44%. So hopefully she'll get back with another comment saying that it's been addressed. I'm sure she doesn't want to read the whole, 264 pages or something. But we did pull the page out and highlight it for her to make it easy to show that it is there. So that should take care of the Water Resource Study Committee, as far as we can tell. The Board of Health had concern because there was a prior approved septic system for the original house that was there, which showed the entire perimeter of the property, I believe. So we have since, as soon as we got that memo, given her a copy, and I went to Greg's office, we put the new Form A on, showed the setbacks for the septic system, and the Board of Health has had that. I think that was the Board of Health's only
I
concern.
think we want that data too.
Yes,
Yeah,
we want that.
All right, well, it's a septic system plan.
I don't care, we want it.
That's fine. We'll give you guys a copy of the septic. We want both of them? We'll
Absolutely.
give you both the septic plans.
Thank you.
But it was a Board of Health issue, so that's why we...
But we see it.
Gave it to you.
We want
So
it.
we will get copies of that over to you ASAP. That hopefully will take care of the Board of Health issues as far as the project is concerned. There were no other issues than that in that particular memo. The fire chief, this one I would like to talk about a little bit, because it's kind of near and dear to my heart. Having done a lot of common driveways in town, and Ann, you've been here for a lot of them, we have always used the premise for some of the new members here. If it was a 3-lot common driveway, it was 16 feet of pavement, and the fire chief at the time could reduce that down to 14 feet. And it was always interpreted that if it was a 2-lot common driveway, it was 14 feet of pavement, and the fire chief could knock that down to 12 feet, okay? And I understand the regulation actually says common driveway shall be 16 feet wide, okay? I get that, but there are numerous driveways, some as close as right next door to this, that is 14 feet wide, okay, approved by the prior fire chief. And there are no issues as far as access is concerned, although that driveway is longer and also is no curves in it as compared to this little straight driveway right here. So I still would like to work with the chief, and maybe the board, when I'm done, will understand this. He's of the opinion that because the bylaw says 16 feet, that he doesn't want to be in violation of the bylaw. And I met with him twice over this, okay, and brought him plans. So not only is the one on the left-hand side of this 14 feet, but the one that's on the right-hand side of this that was approved for Mr. Snow on the Conservation Commission, that actually was 12 feet wide, serving 2 houses, and that's about 5 or 6 driveways down to the right of this. There's been no issues with that driveway either, and that's been in for I don't know, 8 years or something like that. I myself have done multiple driveways for 2 lots where the planning board has said 14 feet is okay. I understand it's not up to the planning board, it's up to the fire department. He's of the opinion that he doesn't want to go against what the planning board would want to have, even though it's his call in the bylaw. So it states right in the bylaw that he's the one that makes that determination. I know that Karen has given him a number of sites where there are 16-foot wide common driveways. I don't know if she had given him sites where there were 14-foot common driveways, but there are definitely multiple in town. So the only thing I would ask is, because we're in the Water Resource Protection District, and this is an extremely simple 2-lot common driveway, that if the board would think about that, we have less pavement out there if it's 14 feet, and it's really not an access issue. He easily can get in between those 2 houses going in. That was the only thing on his memo that we really got in a discussion about. We have 30-foot radiuses at the front, not 25. He was happy with that because 25 is the requirement. The length of the driveway, again, is 50 feet shorter than the one that was approved next to it at 14 feet. And those houses are actually about 200 and something feet off the road. These are right on the street. There's a high likelihood that if there's a fire in one of these houses, they're going to fight it from Country Way. They're probably not going to pull up the driveway. They're probably going to be right in front where the fire hydrant is. So again, I'm taking my hat off to the board and saying, if you said to him, there are reasons why this could be a 14-foot driveway rather than 16, that would be, I think, at least worth talking about with the board before we put that to bed, because he also was of the opinion that 2-lot driveways were 14 feet, and we were both scratching our heads, and Karen was right. The regulation says 16, but I think, Ann, you'll agree, we've done 14-footers, a number of them out there, some of them without any discussion from the fire chief, which was wrong, but there are numerous letters in from the previous chiefs and all that saying that 14 feet is adequate. We didn't go down to 12 feet on this because it doesn't make sense, but we thought 14 feet was pretty good for 2 houses. So we'll hold that one hopefully until the end, but I would still like to talk about that one.
Can I just ask you a very big question? If there was a fire in either one of these houses, and they would stop the fire truck on Country Way,
Yep.
how wide is Country Way at that point?
How wide is Country Way?
Yeah. So you'd have to close the street theoretically. I mean, those fire engines are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so.
And longer and
Well, he's
longer.
going to have a new sidewalk that's 5 feet wide on the edge, and we're going to move the retaining wall back, which has been told by DPW that it is a public nuisance to have that wall there. So there are benefits that Mr. Sharon is doing here that are helping the town as well. You know, he's going to remove the entire wall. He's going to spend quite a bit of money, you know, doing these things and putting the sidewalk in at his cost. I just hate to see the 14 feet go away, because the drainage study, it just makes the drainage bigger. It puts more pavement out there. I think if the board chimed in on it, I think he might come around and say 14 is okay.
Karen?
I've had a couple conversations with Deputy Elliott on this, and he says the bylaw says 16 feet. He doesn't see a hardship in having it not be 16 feet. I did a very quick analysis of some common driveways, and about half of them are 16, and about half of them are 14. Everything before 2004 is all 16 feet.
So if it says 16 feet, it should be
So,
16.
and a lot of the recent ones are 16 feet. And so,
How wide is Evangeline?
Evangeline's a road.
How wide is it?
20. 20.
20, no.
Isn't it 20?
More is it 22?
Might be 22 feet. I don't know. I don't want to say that.
Okay.
But that's serving 15
Okay.
lots, and it's 600
I
feet
remember
in
the town
excess.
administrator wishing it were wider. So, you know, one of the things that you've got going here, did you finish your
Yes, I
question?
did. I
All
just
right.
wanted to know about how big the
Right.
fire engines are.
This is a rather steep driveway.
And I talked to him about that as well. Hopefully, he reiterated that to Karen, but I brought the plans to him. The steepest point is 10.15%. He said, I don't have a problem with that. That's 10%. Right now, the existing driveway has points in it that are 13%, so it's less than what is out there. The only real issue was the 14 or 16, I think.
All right, well, we will take that under advisement at this moment in time.
Okay.
All right?
Who else chimed in? I think that's pretty much the
I think that's.
comments from the
every-
other board.
except-
Oh, no, there's one more, and it was one of, I don't know if it was one of you guys or Mr. Pritchard possibly. I got one email from Karen that talked about a board member that found a few things that seemed to be incorrect. One of them was on an affidavit that Mr. Marabito would have sent out regarding the stormwater, but didn't have to because the stormwater is part of the common driveway, so it's all in one. That actually had the word Cohasset instead of Scituate. So we brought in another copy of it, even though it doesn't mean anything. We brought in a copy that says Scituate on it, so that could be put into the stormwater report. And I think there were like 2 other comments on that, Karen. I don't know if you have it right in front of you or not.
Yeah, he commented about Appendix C, then he found it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he commented about the affidavit needed a signature and stamp, and we did get a signature and stamp on that, so.
So preliminarily, and I assume that probably was Mr. Pritchard that wrote that, and that's fine. He's looking at it, so that's good. But we addressed all of those comments that are in there.
Which Phil are you bringing into this place?
That's going to be for Greg.
What,
Phil?
How much fill do you think the,
It's probably more of a cut site than a fill site.
Okay.
I haven't done a cut and fill analysis on it. But I mean, I can.
let's get a rough, write that down. Let's get him a rough one. There's a lot of grading. I mean, there's definitely a lot of grading.
It's pretty steep up there.
I mean, there are places with 5 feet of fill, but there are places with cuts too. So, I mean, I saw, 2 or 3 feet of cut in some places, but, there's gonna have to be good material brought in.
Okay.
And the front of the site actually has pretty good gravel on it, the front portion. And the back portion, not so much. It's got more glacial tilt towards the back of the property.
Let's see.
What else is in there? Oh, just a couple of comments on what John did, because where he's not here, and I appreciate the fact, Karen, we tried to set a meeting up prior to this to get Mr. Cheshire and Greg in the same room or on a Zoom meeting, whatever, to go through some of the comments that he had once we saw the length of his review. And some of the stuff is actually in there, but you've got to kind of look to find it. And for one reason or another, that meeting didn't happen. Greg had an issue in the town hall. The phones weren't working that morning, and it didn't happen, that's all. So we still would like to have that meeting, and that's why I wanted to try and get all the other comments from everybody else out of the way and just get it down to Mr. Cheshire and Greg getting together to try to hash out all this stuff, which is, in my opinion, a lot of minutia, and it's not worthy of the board's time to go through all that. If Mr. Cheshire agrees with Greg, I'm assuming the board will go along with whatever they come up with.
All right, well, that was the common driveway.
Yes.
And that's a public meeting. Is there any public comment on the common driveway?
I don't understand.
Would you identify yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Tina Dallin, 526 Country Way. I don't understand why I was told that the driveway was put there so that, for construction purposes, that it would be easier to have there. And I don't understand why the existing driveway can't be utilized, why they're cutting a driveway in the middle of the property instead of using the driveway that they have.
I'll try and address it quickly if I can. The entire site is being driven by trying to separate the 2 houses up and put the driveway in the middle of it. The existing driveway comes in, if you look at that plan, on the top of the plan, and immediately starts to curve in and goes basically right through where the first house shown on this plan would be. So that would try and stuff 2 houses over to one side, which is not good development. I mean, there's no reason not to have the driveway in this location.
You already cut the wall and made
Excuse me,
access.
excuse me, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll address that as well. But from a design standpoint, this is the best layout for a finished product, and we need the room to make the stormwater work. Obviously now, there's gonna be some adjustments between Greg and John to get all that stormwater to work. It's not a simple thing.
No,
That's gonna be, the main issue on this is going to be getting the stormwater to work.
Okay.
We know that. John obviously knows that. I think Karen knows that. If you read his report, you're gonna see that, which is why tonight, we don't wanna waste too much time on that. We wanna get that down so it's a little bit tighter before it comes back into you guys.
And I would also say that the cut in the stone wall was done so that there was viable access in order to give you the two Form As.
Yes.
That driveway will, or such as it is going to go away.
Correct.
It will not stay. And that will ultimately be the stone wall that you're talking about,
Yes, back on the property.
back on the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? All right.
So, and just so you guys know, as far as drainage is concerned, and I understand her concern as far as drainage, the water goes in that direction, okay? Although there's a catch basin right near the entrance of where this common driveway is gonna go, which is gonna accept any water coming from the street, as well as if there's some water at the very front of the property that's not infiltrated, but there will be less water coming off the site after the project is done than what's going now, and that's what they need to get together to go through that stuff and prove that the water will be less. But the water then goes into that catch basin and is piped through the property across the street. So there's no surface flow that we could see, and, I mean, some of these storms we had, I know Karen had been out there a number of times.
I've driven by as well.
I mean,
There's nothing.
when we put the opening in the wall, we put crushed stone in there to make sure that it was gonna be clean. There's 3 feet of crushed stone depth in there to make sure that that was not gonna be a problem for anybody. It was, you're right, it was purely done to be able to get the Form A signed by the board. And the water will be taken care of. So as far as tonight is concerned, if we put that off a little bit, we'll be better served, I think, to do that.
So I'm going to pretend to be Steve Pritchett. I'm not as smart as Steve Pritchett, but he's going to tell you that there's no water now and there's no water going to be after. But he's very concerned about during construction. We don't want any water coming off that site during construction.
Right. That is so important.
That's
so important.
Yes.
Karen?
Right, that's a very, so that you have to have the right size sedimentation sumps on the site during construction so nothing goes off. John Cheshire was also concerned about the proximity of the infiltration systems to the wall and to the road, because you don't want the recharge going into the road.
Yeah.
And because there could be no water from this site going off the site into the road.
Okay.
And again, that's the stuff that they'll go through and hash out what that has to be.
Right, and during construction,
Yeah.
when you cut and fill and do whatever, and you've got your mounds of dirt and all the rest of it, we don't want to see any gullies or anything, as we have seen in some other issues. No.
I can tell you there are certain projects in town that there have been some tremendous problems with.
Yes.
But I can tell you that Paul Sharon Jr., okay, is not involved with any of those, and he is doing his best to become a really good builder in the town of Scituate. And I don't think that there's any complaints against Paul Sharon Jr. And when storms happened, I called him on the phone. He was out there within minutes putting out the straw across the end just to make sure everything was okay. And I would expect that he'll follow that all the way through. He has a good reputation. He wants to keep it. So he's not going to shut his eyes to that stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
Paul Sharon built the 2 lots next to that. And water wasn't controlled during the building of that. And I would like to just show, if I could, the town, show the board, if it's okay, if I can show you a picture of the destruction of my driveway and why I'm so concerned about water and the damage that we have. So controlling water from the property is my primary concern because, you know, I'm not convinced, and I have videos of water pouring out of the driveway as well, and I'm very concerned. And I would like to show you, because I've tried to get people to come see this, and
You can
I
show it
just
to
don't want
Karen.
more.
Karen, take a look at that.
Yeah, did you already send me these
No,
ones?
I can't send them because the town website won't let me send it by email. But if it has
You can send it to me, I mean.
I've
you
tried
should-
to send
You should be
emails
able to
of
send it to
pictures.
me.
And
You probably only have certain, I mean, we can get,
Smaller.
you might have to make it smaller. You might have to save it as large versus the actual size, so you can get something through. We can only get 20 megs at a time.
Okay. So, I mean, you can see the, you know, all
Yeah.
this is,
Mhm.
and look at, from coming down, it's like, we have moss growing and, you know, all over the
Is that from this
thing.
current site or
So-
the other site?
Other side.
I'm just, I know that, you know, he wants to, and what happened with that site was that water backed up onto Arbor Way. So they redid all the plans and had swales and everything come down to the front, which is across from my house. And so, you know, I have a lot of damage to my property, and I have a lot of concerns now that he's doing the one next door.
Okay, but why don't,
And
Ms. Davenport, I will tell you,
Yeah.
we will be all over him to ensure that the water remains where it is supposed to, okay?
Thank you.
We
I
will take,
appreciate that.
we will do that.
Thank you.
And just for the record, the entrance where this driveway is going in is at a lower elevation than where the entrance to her driveway is across the street.
Right.
So, and there's a catch basin right there.
I know.
So,
Okay.
as long as the town built the road properly, it will drain to the catch basin.
We can only hope.
We've been out there, it drains.
It's very challenging.
I will tell you, the next catch basin north of this, there is a problem with. And that actually floods the road out. I think maybe when you were out
And
there,
I'm
you might
aware,
have seen
and
that.
I have been told that DPW is
They're gonna take
aware
care
of
it.
this.
Yeah,
Is
they're
this the
gonna
one
take
at the
care
end
of
of
it.
Howard, is this at Howard
But it
Street?
is definitely a problem, and it definitely floods that road out, but it has
Well,
nothing to do with this particular
Right,
site.
and
It's
there
the
was a
next catch
flood
basin.
in front of your baker.
Yeah, that's, are you talking about the one at Howard Street? That catch basin?
Oh, it's one, it's only
No, it's
one
just
catch
one out.
basin
It's
further
one out.
north.
Oh,
And there's a
okay.
broken pipe, I believe, that's what I've been told. And
That's
I was
what I-
out there and parked, I couldn't believe it.
Well,
When
the
we
one-
had the really bad storms.
Yeah.
But the other one that's directly in front of where this is gonna go was working fine.
Right.
Yeah, I know that, but like I said, the one I know at the end of Howard Street it's like a lake.
It is, it was.
There's something
Awful.
wrong with that one as well, so they probably connected some point through there.
Somewhere.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything further for this evening? We can continue this.
I think we have to decide on a date for
Yep.
continuing. It
Have something you
doesn't,
want to say?
Yeah, was just looking at the plans and some of the bylaws and whatnot, and I don't see anywhere on either plan set that shows the area that is not going to be disturbed as part of the site development. Am I correct in assuming that the entire site is going to be clear cut and graded?
I don't know if the entire site is gonna be clear cut and graded out towards the back. We're gonna minimize the amount of, disturbance. But there will have to be access out towards the back of the lots where the septic systems are going. And there's gonna be a disturbance during the construction. But, yeah, I don't envision the whole site being cut and graded. I don't think that's what the developer intends on doing, for a number of reasons. He likes the trees that are back there for a buffer for his property as much as anybody else likes trees for a buffer of their property that share a common property line. And there's also the element of unnecessary expense. You know, why would you take down trees if you don't have to, and if they're serving a pretty good purpose? So, I don't think the whole thing will be disturbed.
But perhaps to address Mr. Bornstein's point, the erosion control and the limit of work should clearly be shown on the plan so somebody doesn't go beyond the limit of work. Because there is a certain amount of limit of area of disturbance indicated in the stormwater permit. And it wasn't the whole site, but it was about 6,000 square feet less than the whole site. So perhaps that could be made clearer on the plans.
All right, and likewise, I think John touched on this in some of his points, so I think that, you guys will have this meeting and hash it out, and we'll discuss it in further iterations, but, there's also, both in the common driveway plan and site plan review, there's wording, referencing trees over 12-inch character, the site, the purpose of the common driveway, a big part of it is to preserve scenic or rural character and all of that, and I think that that's something that should be considered, as part of this permitting these two lots, is to kind of avoid the scorched earth bulldozed look that we seem to be getting a lot of places. I think we can do better, and it comes in the design standpoint, not farther down the line when the site work guys are already there.
But there's going to be the removal of that concrete wall.
Yep.
And there's going to be the installation of another concrete wall that's outside the right-of-way. There's going to be filling and grading up behind that concrete wall. So, a lot of those trees are going to have to be removed because of the removal of the walls, the removal of the wall and the construction of the wall.
We had already done that.
And so
That was for the
scenic road permit conditioned trees to be placed. I mean, perhaps a proper landscape plan can be done to show where the trees could be located and not impact the infiltration system. I think we conditioned 6 trees.
6 trees. You owe us 4. Anyway, are you all set?
Yeah.
Do you have anything? Bob?
I'm all set.
Patty?
I'm all set, thanks.
All right,
Not bad.
we're going to continue this.
Well, the question becomes, how long is it going to take to prepare the plans? I mean, John Cheshire needs 3 weeks to review, and it has to be back to us a week beforehand. So we haven't even scheduled this meeting now, so I don't see there's any way to make October 14th. To me, the earliest time you could even consider would be October 28th.
26th.
Yeah, widening it to 16 feet, there's a lot of, it's a tough site. We've got some good soils out front, but I need to get water into those soils. They have to be at a certain elevation above the groundwater table. And then they have to be pre-treated to 44%. And that's been an issue. I mean, I tried to do it with the swale along the side of the road, and John is saying that basically it doesn't conform to the code. Getting 44% has been a daunting task. One of which was structures such as a storm scepter. The STEP program said that they can get easily up to 50, 60, 70, even 80% TSS removal for pre-treatment, depending upon the tributary watershed and the geographic location, etc. But there's a method of determining that. And lately, again, people have been just saying that a storm scepter can only get 30% TSS, which is below the 44% TSS, which makes things rather difficult. I mean, the regs are very strict, as you know, and I need every tool that's accessible in those regs in order to make this work. And when my tools are taken away from me because somebody at the state said, well, they're only good for 25 TSS or 30% TSS, and it's not something that has been gone through legislation and regulation. It's just somebody handing down their opinion, I presume, but it's not what the STEP program has said that they're capable of doing. It makes things very difficult.
Can I give that to him in layman's terms?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Please do.
In layman's terms, there's some differences of opinion between Mr. Cheshire and what we read in the regulations. And that's why we need to have the meeting.
Gotta
To try to
have a
come
conversation.
to minds that if the state says it does 70% and somebody at DEP writes a letter, and that letter makes it into the hands of somebody and they go, aha, this guy says it's only 30%, do we use what the state says or do we use what that guy says? So we need to kind of get together to get on the same page with some of this stuff.
Those two guys.
And again, I apologize, we thought it was going to happen beforehand, but, you know, we're at the board's mercy for this, and obviously Mr. Cheshire's mercy, and we hope that, you know, we can put our heads together and come up with stuff that's going to end up making sense.
Okay. Good. Karen?
So ultimately, I need new materials by September 30th to make an October 28th deadline. Can you do that?
Yeah, will it be complete? We're not sure.
Well, then we don't
No,
know.
that we-
Because we've got to go back and forth with Mr. Cheshire, that's right there. So we would like to be on for that meeting, if that's the earliest one we could be
Yeah.
on for, because we should be an awful lot closer to realizing if this is going to come to fruition or not. And obviously, the sooner we can do this, the better we can do this. In a nutshell, I got to tell you, there's a reason why the stormwater stuff was 4 houses or better. It wasn't meant for single-family homes, and it's killing it in this town. I think everybody knows that. So we're trying to work with this regulation that makes no sense.
I'm going to disagree with that because things are getting much tougher with the MS4 and we need all this stuff in there. So
And
that's a topic for another night.
That's right, and
That's
it's
a
not for
topic
tonight.
another
I
night.
know how you feel about all of
I'm
this,
voicing my opinion.
what
and
you are
that's fine.
entitled to, but we're not going to hear any more of it. So there you go.
So do we want to go 6:30 on October 28th?
Don't we meet the 26th?
That's town meeting.
Oh, town
26th
meeting.
is the town meeting.
All
Or do you
right.
want to go 7 o'clock on the 28th? And, I mean, we'll say December
Stay with us, Ann.
24th for time for action. What do you guys want?
I would prefer 6:30.
Okay, 6:30.
And is this 14 versus 16 a closed issue? Or would the board entertain that? I just, like she said, 50% of them are one way, 50% of the other.
I'll open it up to the board.
That's all I ask.
Ben, you,
Let's go with you.
I think from a low impact development perspective, less pavement is better, but the regulations say the fire chief has to prove it, but I'm happy to tell him the environmental and site development benefits of less pavement, but.
Patty?
I'm going to defer to the engineers.
Well, it's not an engineer issue.
No.
Well,
I would defer to the fire chief,
Yeah.
and if the fire chief is deferring back to the bylaw, I think that really what the issue is, like, is he able to perform his emergency duties with a 14 or 16 foot driveway. Obviously, like Ben said, like, narrower would be better environmentally, but it comes down to what the fire chief is able to do. And I think that if he's able to do it with 14 feet, be happy with that.
He says it's difficult for two vehicles, a fire truck and an ambulance to pass in 14 feet. That's what he told me.
that's what I was asking before.
Yeah. So if he feels more comfortable with 16, then
We'll go with 16.
He feels more comfortable with 16.
Now, and I'm going to pre-apologize, without the town planner being involved, if the planning board were to draft a letter saying, do you believe that you can do this with a 14-foot paved surface, would you send that to him?
No. He said, I say no.
Not really. I mean, I'm happy to tell him the principles of, I guess, the civil engineering and science behind why to those merits, but I'm not willing to comment in terms of if he feels, you know, that he needs more real estate to get trucks past. I mean, that's outside of my jurisdiction. So, I mean, I find that that's between the departments themselves, planning and it seems more of an administrative thing. So I don't feel comfortable the way that question was phrased of whether we would bypass Karen or not.
I'm not going to.
We're not going, no.
All right, well, it's not a planner issue. It's the
I mean,
planning
perhaps-
board and the fire department.
And the fire department has been adamant that he wants it at 16 feet. On two separate
that's how- yeah.
occasions, Karen has spoken with him, and he has said in a memo that he wants 16 feet. So it's 16
feet.
feet. There you have it.
Redo the drainage and
But-
add more pavement. It's the wrong thing to do, but we'll do it.
Well, hey,
Well, I think
you're young, you'll get
I
over
think
it, Steve.
we'll think about what his arguments are, right? And if it's for passage of vehicles, perhaps you could kill two birds with one design perspective and do something like have a wider driveway, but maybe the sides are some sort of permeable material that's also capable of withstanding the loading weight of emergency apparatus.
Well, there's
I mean,
shoulders on each side. So the apparatus can go in there without any.
right, but
problem.
if he, all right, never mind. I don't need to
Again,
give you advice.
I tried to do it,
I'm
half
done.
the driveways are 14 feet.
Yeah.
We'll wait, we'll try and change the bylaw.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the stormwater permit and the public meeting for the site plan administrative review for common driveway at 533 Country Way until October 28th at 6:30 PM with a time to continue the time for action until December 24th, 2021, Christmas Eve.
What a Christmas gift.
Beautiful
Seriously.
thing. It's a beautiful thing. Okay.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's not the same amount of grounds that people can do.
What?
All right, is there anything else from my board?
No, thank you.
Anybody? No? No. Karen? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.